A warm welcome to all of our Ecocast podcast listeners. Today, we are privileged to have Dr. Touseef Ahamd with us, who is a core environmentalist who has planted around 22,350 trees till date, with a pledge of planting over 1 lakh trees in his lifetime. To all our global listeners, 1 lakh is a huge number, which is almost zero point 0.1 million trees. Apart from that, he has planted 127 chinars. For our global audiences, once again, chinar tree is basically a living heritage of Kashmir, and these trees characteristically grow in eastern Himalayas. He has restored more than 50 springs across Kashmir region, held more than 5,000 cleanliness drives in last 22 years. It is worth noting that Dr. Touseef comes from a forest background, with both grandfathers and his father being the foresters. Dr. Touseef is founder of Environmental Policy Group and Secretary Rotary Club of Kashmir, which is the largest NGO of the world. He is actively involved in complete research of all the wetlands of Kashmir. Also, he serves as the environmental chair of ESREG, which is the Environmental Sustainability Rotary Action Group, representing South Asia. Moreover, he has formed around 250 eco clubs in various schools and colleges. It is indeed a proud moment for all of us to have Dr. Touseef Ahamd on our Eco podcast show. Welcome, Dr. Touseef, for accepting our invitation, first of all, and accept our warm greetings on this lovely day today.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Parthik, and your entire team and Eco Podcasts. You are doing a wonderful work. Though we have not met many a times, but the time I met you, I can see that clearly there's a person who has a wavelength as I have when it comes to environment and all. So thank you very much for having me here. I will try my level best to make this podcast more interesting and send a message across to the student community and the people living on this earth.
Thank you, Dr. Touseef. And let me tell you, likewise, very few people that I met in my life that has a strong wavelength connection as what you share with me, for sure. Dr. Touseef, I'm sure our listeners might have got a gist of our today's topic, which will revolve around the term wetlands. Now, to my understanding, wetlands provide multiple benefits to the environment, including safeguarding of the water quality, or be it the provision of wildlife habitats, and of course, maintaining the surface water flow during the dry season, which is quite critical. Dr. Touseef, since you have primarily worked in Kashmir region, how do you see the wetlands region in Kashmir shaping up over the years?
Thank you very much. See, this is actually a very broader question, I could say. Reason being because wetlands are like kidneys to this, like kidneys to the water bodies. They act the same as our kidneys work, and what are the role of our kidneys in our body, that is there, right? Because the urbanization, pollution, encroachment, land use change, climate change, loss of biodiversity, decreased water quality, negative impact on human health. So economic impacts, there are a lot of things that can be talked about when we talk about wetlands, especially of Kashmir. Because as a whole, in one of my book which I have wrote of lately, where I have mentioned that whole Kashmir is a wetland. It is not a place like there are some Ramsar sites that has been designated as Ramsar sites, some of the wetlands which we can talk later, but whole Kashmir is a wetland. So we have to understand that Kashmir is a very eco-fragile place. Now there in recent past 10 to 20, maybe in last 50 years, there's a lot of challenge of pollution, that discharge of untreated sewage, and then the agriculture runoff has led to the deterioration of water quality, making it unsuitable for aquatic life. We have seen, since we have been visiting these wetlands from last 20 years now, and we are trying our level best to check out on certain things. Then the second threat, which is actually to these wetlands, that is encroachment and urbanization. People are getting more greedy. They want a house, they want a mansion. They don't bother that wherever they find a place to build it, despite taking the consequences like we have of encouragement and urbanization. The rapid expansion of urban areas has resulted in the conversion of wetlands into residential and commercial spaces that we are seeing every now and then, which leading to the habitat loss, and the fragmentation of these wetlands has been lost because of these encroachment and urbanizations. And ultimately, with the encroachment and urbanization, the land use changes, also the conversion into the agriculture land, into, because we have seen recently in our visits to some of the wetlands, that some of the wetlands, like since they are slowly converting into the dry lands, people are first using them for the agriculture land, like agriculture purpose, ultimately, which is again a threat to these wetlands. That is what I'm talking about, the land use changes. Then that the world is talking about climatic change, because the change in temperature and the precipitation patterns have disrupted the delicate balance of these ecosystems, making them more vulnerable to degradation because of the COP28 and other things that are going worldwide, because people are around the world, around the globe. Because as you said, I am also representing one of the international organizations like ISRAC, which is an environmental sustainability rotary action group, wherein we day in day out talk about climate change across the world. I have attended few meetings internationally where people are very much concerned about this climate change. Everybody has to take plays part into these, because the consequences of this degradation are far reaching and affecting not only the environment but our socio-economic balance of the region. The socio-economic balance is because these wetlands, we have to also remember that, we have to also remind ourselves that these wetlands not only are the river basins, absorb water, flood water and other things, but they also produce the livelihood to the locals who live in and around that place. Because of these urbanization, pollution, change, land use change, the loss of biodiversity, is because the degradation of wetlands has led to the decline of aquatic species. We have seen in some of the wetlands where people living in the vicinity of that particular wetland, like we have Haigam here, like we have Shalubuk here, we have Hokarsar, we have Mirgund. There are so many. These are some of the Ramsar sites. People living in and around earlier were dependent for the livelihood there, but now they are deprived. They are deprived of the same because of the loss of the biodiversity. Then we have the decreased water quality as well as the quantity. Even some of the wetlands, like the wetland like Mirgund, which we have the last visit just 2 days back, continuously visiting, it has totally converting into the dry land, despite the government and the officials are trying their level best. But I think sometimes it is too late to repair or recover something, because then the economic impact of these are very much like, we have, since we lost the wetlands, has resulted in decreasing opportunity for fishing, agriculture, tourism, affecting the life, as I was saying, affecting the livelihood of the local communities, because urbanization is going so fast. And I think if government doesn't wake up now, it will be too late tomorrow you want to restore, because sometimes you want to restore something, you need a time, but what a time reaches to its brim, means then you can do nothing. When a patient is sick, if he early goes to the doctor, a doctor diagnoses something and he starts treatment. But when it's too late to go to the doctor, I think some of our wetlands are breathing their last. They are on their deathbeds. If nothing is done now, I think tomorrow will be too late.
Thank you, sir, for your insights. You mentioned some key terms related to climate change, land use change, socio-economic balance, the loss of biodiversity, livelihood deprivation, and urbanization, all due to the results of degradation of wetlands. Now, sir, I would ask a relatively, a relatively thinner question pertaining to Kashmir itself, that how are Kashmir's wetlands being starved of essential resources such as water, nutrients, and biodiversity? And what are the consequences of this deprivation for the region's ecological and socioeconomic balance, as you just mentioned?
As a Kashmiri, I am deeply concerned about the environmental challenges facing our region, particularly the impact of the untreated sewage on our wetlands, because this is the bigger threat that our wetlands are facing. Because wetland selection, if we talk about wetland selection and restoration, if we are not able to identify suitable wetlands, then to collaborate with the local authorities, experts, communities, everybody has to play its part. Wetland is actually a subject. It cannot be done by one person or one individual or one organization. It is a collaboration of local authorities, experts, communities, and then we have to start how we can stop this sewage going into the wetlands, which is destroying this. Then we have to restore the degraded wetlands. As I said earlier, there are many wetlands which are on the verge of extinction. If the proper restoration is not to be done, if we don't implement or restore projects to revive degraded wetlands, ensuring they can function effectively as natural treatment systems. Then after that, I see that water waste collection and pre-treatments. If we don't establish a water waste collection system, if we don't implement pre-treatment measures, then I think these wetlands, the nutrient load on these wetlands will be very high, and ultimately that will, we have to use some low cost, low cost technologies like grid chambers, sedimentation tanks, screening system to remove the large debris and other things. Then these are the man-made, treatments we can do. Then simultaneously, nature always comes with a plan. Whenever we go into deep into the nature and we connect with the nature, we always think that, and we always see that there is always a procedure of, natural treatment processes, like using wetland plants for this, like plant species, like there are reeds, sledges, and there are plants who absorb the nutrients and the metals from the waterways. There's a natural process that nature do of its own. Mother Nature has its own process of reviving things. And the very important thing is monitoring and maintenance. It's not like if we restore a wetland, if we do something and we don't have monitoring and maintenance in place, I don't think it's going to work. Then one more important thing, which is as important as this monitoring and maintenance, is the community engagement and education. At the end of the day, the community living in and around the wetland, they are the actual stakeholders of the wetland. If we don't engage them, if we don't educate them, then we might restore it for next 2 years, 3 years, or 4 years, unless we don't take the community in confidence, and we raise awareness about this wetland, educate local communities, tell them the values of wetland, wasteland treatments, how it's to be done, involve them into the management as well, not only into this. Then at the end, we should have a policy framework and the support, because for that is where the role of administration is very important. That is in policy framework and support. We have to develop a supportive policy and regulation, encourage the government to establish policies, like one of the environmental policy group, which I am a co-founder and I am a founding member of that, which we are doing. We are trying to encourage the government to establish policies and regulate that promote the use of wetlands for wastewater treatment. And then finally, secure funding and resources. Collaborate. We have to collaborate with, if at all we want to do it at our own level, then the funding and resources are very important, which we can collaborate with because there are a lot of NGOs across the world who are extensively and day in, day out, they're working for climate change and other things. And wetlands play a very important role. Let me tell you one thing. This year, we have a 27% total deficit of rain in Kashmir. I don't know about other places, but in Kashmir, we have a rain deficit in total. We have around 72% rain deficit, which is a matter of huge concern. We have the hottest March in last 132 years. So I think these things are some of the things which I summed up, that but if we adopt this holistic approach, we can effectively utilize our wetlands for natural wastewater treatments, mitigating the impact of untreated sewage on our environment and public health.
Sir, I have one question. Recently, it had made to the news that pollution and encroachment have led to reduction in the vegetation, small insects and aquatic life within Kashmir's wetland, leading to a decrease in available food for migratory birds. What in terms of technical and policy can be done in order to restore these depleting resources and rejuvenate them? Another news which made to the headlines was 9 Kashmir wetlands failed to meet water quality standards. What are the most prominent reasons behind this huge deterioration, and what measures can be put in place to curb the further decline?
See, Palvinish, as I said earlier, that the catchment delineation and mapping, that is very important. I 100% agree with you that right now, if you go to these wetlands, they surely doesn't meet the water standards, and it is making news all across. Me as an activist, we have been on protest from long time. We have been alarming, awakening government that these are the wetlands which are like the lifeline. We have to actually, what personally I feel that the catchment delineation and mapping is very important. Now, in some cases or in most of the wetlands, the demarcation is done. As we all know that Kashmir has gone through a lot in last 30 years when there was no law and order, when everything was hosh-posh. So in those times, that what has happened, the problem that has happened, that is overcoming these. I think the victim is these wetlands. Now, what is to be done? Because most of these have not qualified you are 100% right. They have not qualified the water. They have not qualified the water test and all these things. And still, if we do it now today only, they will not also qualify because of the certain reasons. We have not been able to. The catchment delineation and mapping has not been done. If we conduct a detailed survey survey, if we use, because nowadays it's a time of technology, if we use GPS, if we use GIS, if we use remote sensing technologies to map the catchment areas, and we have to include the boundaries and water flow patterns, that can improve the water quality of these wetlands. Second, we have to identify critical sources area, because pinpoint areas with high erosion potentials and nutrient runoff to the environmental concerns. We have to also identify the areas where from this runoff is taking place. If we don't do the catchment, then there is no fun of no fun of getting these wetlands restored. More important thing is that we have to importantly collaborate also and partnership with the foster local authorities. We have to engage more and more volunteers. We have to get into the seek international support and guidance into this, because wetland is not it's not a place like, if wetland is in Kashmir, it will not affect the people living in other parts of the country. I am saying if the wetland is not right in Kashmir, it will affect the other parts of the world. Forget about Kashmir, forget about other places. So these are the things like we have to take in consideration. So main important thrust point is the catchment delineation and mapping. If we are able to do that, that will definitely help us. And in next 5-7 years, if we somehow manage to get the water tests of these wetlands again done, I think if proper catchment delineation and mapping is done, I think that can do. I hope this answer to your question.
Thank you, sir, for enlightening us effects of urbanization on wetland. So I would like to ask the questions regarding biomonitoring and health of wetland measurement. So my first question is, how does urbanization threaten the biodiversity of wetland in Kashmir, particularly in terms of maintaining water quality for flora and fauna?
You are saying that how does urbanization affecting wetlands? See, as I said earlier, Kashmir has gone through many things in last around say 30 years, when there was no law and order. Then people were like, wherever there is a patch of land, without considering that it's a wetland, because we have lost a lot of streams that we are connecting these wetlands. Those are called the juvenile winds of these wetlands. We lost them because the urbanization expansion and rapid urbanization has led to the conversion of wetland residential and commercial areas. We were on a month-long visit to these wetlands. What we have seen that we are actually pressing very hard on government that there should be a proper, as I said earlier, the proper mapping, because the urbanization expansion is increasing every day. It's not stopping anywhere. Then one more problem is there, that infrastructure development, because roads are also important, railway bridges are important, buildings are important, but government has to take in consideration that at what cost they want to bridge, because most of the wetlands in Kashmir, what we have seen, has been the victim of infrastructure development when it comes to road, because there are a lot of roads that have been going through these wetlands. And one more important thing, that is the pollution, because as I earlier said, the untreated sewage, since there is not a lot of industrial influence on these wetlands, because we don't have much industries in Kashmir, there are very few, and most of them are not into the red or orange zone, they are mostly green. So I will not touch that, but the agriculture runoff, polluted and affecting water qualities and biodiversity, that is huge effect. Now, if I come directly to the effect of wetlands degradation in Kashmir, if I name them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or 1, 2, 3, 4, for example, the first is loss of the biodiversity. I said it earlier. Degradation of wetlands has led to the decline of the aquatic species. It is not only the fish, bird, and plants, but many other things that has affected the biodiversity of these wetlands. Then the water quality you were talking about earlier. The water quality deterioration is so much so that nobody in this present point of time can drink directly from those wetlands. Reason being because most of them has turned wet. If some of the wetlands have the water, that is the quality of water is to not that level. And then in 2014 we have a very huge and massive floods in Kashmir that destroyed everything here. In 2014 we have a huge flood, and then afterwards we are again advocating and telling the government that because these wetlands are the absorbing basins, they act, as I said, they act like kidneys, they absorb the flood water and all that. There is a lot of silt which has been deposited, on these wetlands. So once we are actually done with the restoration of these wetlands, the desilting is also an important factor, and desilting has to be done so that they can absorb more and more water, so that we should not face a devastating flood like 2014, which has a huge economic loss to entire community of Kashmir. So the destruction of wetlands has disrupted natural flood control mechanisms, increasing the risk of flooding, and then the negative impact of human health. It also impacts there are many waterborne diseases which spread through these, if you don't maintain the the quality. I think Parthik is the right person to discuss later, tell us, educate us on that what are the waterborne disease and respiratory problems and other health issues that are caused by the negative impact of the human health. Then if we talk about solutions, because when there is a problem, the solution is always attached to it. First solution is conservation and restoration efforts. We have to protect and restore degraded wetlands through community-led initiatives and government programs. Without that, which it is not possible. Second, we have to be a sustainable urban planning, because whenever we plan something in the urban planning, the development should not harm the ecosystem. We are not against the development. I cannot stand up tomorrow and say that the road should not be built here. But what I can say, I always say that the road or the railway track or any other thing, any flyover, any overbridge, any ring road, anything can be done, but not at the cost of these ecosystems, because road can be diverted, ecosystem you cannot divert, and it is going to impact you very badly. Third, then wastewater treatments and managements. We need to have, there is a lake called as Manasbal. I can talk about this Manasbal lake, and then there is a place of adjacent village to this that is called as Kondibal. That's called the Kondibal. That is one of the oldest civilizations in Kashmir who used to make this limestone and all. That's called a Kondibal place. Since the government is trying their level best to rehabilitate them and all, but still there it is very difficult to rehabilitate whole village and all, since it has a historical implications and all. What we are advocating, we advocate a proper sewage treatment plant, that wherever it is not possible to save these wetlands, because these lakes are part of the wetland only. Like Haigam is there, Haigam wetland, which is a Ramsar site. It is again the Valur lake is part of that. So then finally, which is very important, that is awareness and education, as I earlier said. Government initiatives and policies are also important. We should establish a Kashmir Wetland Authority. If there is a Kashmir Wetland Authority which will take over these things and dedicate authority to oversee wetland conservation management efforts. It should not be always then when volunteers like us go to the wetland, make the videos, make the aware people about that, then only you awake. They should also awake when there is nobody's when nobody is seeing them, or nobody is there too, because every time an environmentalist like me or an activist like me, we have other things to look at. It's not like whenever we go to the wetland then only the government will wake. Government has to wake also when they know that, because this is the time when birds come to these wetlands from all the places like Siberia. They come from many places. They migrate to this place, but they will only migrate when there is a water. If there is no water available, what for they will migrate? They send the advanced team here. These birds, they are very intelligent. A human should never think that he is only intelligent. They are also very intelligent. They send their advanced team. They recce the place. They see whether the food is available there. They see the water quality is good. They see the water is available there. Then the other birds arrive to Kashmir. And I always say that before the Adam and Eve came to this earth, these animals and birds were already living on this earth. So they also belong to this earth. It's not only the human that we only belong to this earth and we only belong to this place. This earth belongs to those birds, those migratory birds as well. We should respect them as well. Yeah.
Sir, as a Kashmiri, how can wetlands be effectively utilized for a natural wastewater treatment system to mitigate the impacts of untreated sewage?
If I'm not echoing the same thing, I think to some extent I have answered this question as far as your question is concerned. Still, if we as a Kashmiri, we can play a very crucial role in promoting sustainable wastewater management practices by utilizing wetland for natural treatments like natural filtrations. Wetland can filter out pollutants. Natural has its own process of like God has given them the natural process to filter out pollutants, sediments, excess nutrients, and wastewater. If we maintain these wetlands, they will do free of cost for us. We don't have to put any machinery there. Then second is the biological treatment. When wetland plants and microorganisms can break down the organic matters, they reduce that's called BODs. That's called biochemical oxygen demand, and COD. That's the chemical oxygen demand. They do it of their own. So if we maintain only them, we don't need to do anything. Rest they will do. Third, they are the low cost. Because why low cost? Because there is no other, there is no problem into that. Whenever we say that, because they do it, they're of their own. You don't have to build heavy HTPs. You don't have to do anything. All you have to do, you have to just maintain them. They will do the BODs and CODs. That is the biochemical oxygen demand and the chemical oxygen demand. They will maintain that. Then the aesthetic value. See, these have the aesthetic values. These wetlands. These are the wetlands. They provide the scenic beauty. There are the recreation opportunities and habitat for wildlife. It's not only for, as I said, wildlife, animals, birds. They are equally shareholder on this earth. Wherever animals live, we have been seeing the pictures across the net, a place somebody comparing humans live, all the waste there, right? Polythene, plastic, and see where the animals live. So neat and clean because they maintain the they maintain the naturality of the place. So that can be a wetland can be a tourist attraction. As we all know that Kashmir is known for its like hospitality sector. It's known for its tourism and other things. If we maintain these wetlands, then we can attract more and more tourists to this place. So ultimately, for economics, they're also very important. Then when we talk about that, like we have some of the success stories here as well and opportunities. The Achar Lake wetland, we have the Hokersar Lake wetland. These are the wetlands which we recently visited. Earlier, there were no water. There were some breaches on the bunds and all that. After the after the activists, many of us intervened into that, and we pressed it very hard on the government, and they have the breaches has been repaired and all that. And last week we had some of the out of the four, two have been restored. One is the Shalbuk and another is the Hokersar. These are the Hokersar is called the queen of the wetlands in Kashmir. That has recently restored. Now we are waiting for the snow or rain to come because this is the right time. As I said earlier, there's a deficit of rain, but ultimately at the end of the day, we all collectively have to take responsibility of this, because as I said, wetland in Kashmir doesn't mean a person living in Kashmir has to take care of it. If wetland of Kashmir is working properly, it's like the kidneys on the earth. Everybody has to take and play part in it.
Thank you for your valuable insights on Kashmir wetlands, sir. My question is that, so what are the long-term environmental and socio-economic impacts of degradation of wetlands, sir? Since we understand the problem associated with Kashmir wetland, are there any policies implement or under implementation by the government of India for preserving these wetlands and reforming them?
I tell you one thing, it's not like that there is no policy in place or nothing is place, nothing has been done and all that. That I will be impartial. Partiality, if I tell you that Kashmir wetlands are there, as I said, they are facing numerous threats, including pollution, land use change, urbanization, climate change. We have to address these issues. There is a wetland conservation and management rule 2017. 2017, there was a wetland conservation and management rule. These rules aim to conserve and manage wetland in a sustainable manner. So this is already there. They emphasize the importance of maintaining the ecological integrity and wetland and promote their wise use. Then we have the National Wetland Conservation Program that we called as NWCP, that was launched in 1985-86. This program aimed to conserve and manage wetlands in India, including those in Kashmir. It's not only in Kashmir only, but in entire India. The program focused on protecting wetland from pollution, encroachment, and other human activities that harm these ecosystems. We have then Jammu and Kashmir State Wetland Authority. This authority was established to conserve and manage wetland in Jammu and Kashmir. The authority is responsible for implementing policies, regulating related to wetlands, conservation. This is responsibility of the Jammu and Kashmir State Wetland Authority. That is their responsibility. Then we have Ramsar Convention. As we all know that India is a signatory. We are proud to be Indians, and India is a signatory to the Ramsar Convention, an international treaty. If anyone of you want to know what is a Ramsar Convention, I will tell you that it is an international treaty that aims to conserve and manage wetland globally. That is why in my earlier two to three questions when I answered, I said Ramsar sites. Why I said that? Because it's a Ramsar Convention, an international treaty that aims to conserve and management water wetland globally. So if they earmark any wetland as Ramsar, then if it doesn't qualify in next 2-3 years the parameters of that, they can de-recognize that. That is why we are very much concerned. When you have a Ramsar site, the getting funds and everything for the government is very easy. So we don't want to lose any wetland to be taken back the Ramsar convention as a Ramsar site. And so the convention emphasizes the importance of maintaining the ecological character of wetland and promoting their wise use. Now, these policies and regulating demonstrate the Indian government commitment to conserve and management. So this also bound the Indian government. This also bound our government of India that we should take care of these wetlands. However, there is more need to be done to address the ongoing threat of these ecosystems, because there is a threat from the human to these, because we are into urbanization, pollution, sewage, untreated sewage plant, treatment water, then our drainages, and they are going into the wetlands. Then there is a huge land mafia across, who try to everywhere, wherever you go, you will find a land mafia across, and they are actually trying their level best to sell this land to the people who are unknown about the facts that how important the wetlands are, because people like us who are aware, we know that how important these wetlands are, but there are many people in their greed and in the greed, they don't mind that building a house inside the wetland and all. Then ultimately everyone, not only the people living in Kashmir but across the world and across the globe, if we are not preserving these wetlands, everyone living on this planet earth has to pay the consequences of that.
We have one question we can ask, something on global perspective, if that is okay with you, but
Yeah.
Yes, sir. So, after all the insightful questions that we've had and the insightful answers from your end, the last question would be that as we see currently across the globe, that more than 35% of the world's wetlands have been lost since 1970. So, sir, you also mentioned about various pacts and conventions across the world that have been framed regarding the wetland and ecosystem conservation. But, sir, since you're working in this field at the core of it, sir, what could you say that how much are these pacts being actually on ground implemented, and has there been any kind of restoration of a particular ecosystem? If any example you have, if you could share with us the same, and you have seen any wetland that had been wasted earlier and now it has been restored to some amount, so that the people across us do not lose hope, and we could still be hopeful about the ecosystem being taken back to its original form.
Thank you. It's a very nice question, I could say. So success stories are all across. We are actually, it's not like we cannot sit back and relax and think that I will have I will have a luxury car and I will have a mansion, then I can relax. But I have to also see that if there is no wetland, then we cannot stop the flood like 2014 and the devastation that was done. Number one. Number two, there are success stories, if not much, but there are success stories when there are some of the places, because in some of the cases we call these wetlands now as a wastelands as well. Now, if we are talking about, if we conclude this and we are actually trying to see that what is the future perspectives of these wetlands. See, I must tell you one thing, that wetlands all over the world function as important ecological asset and contribute largely to the well-being of the people. Because now students has been taught even in school and colleges about these things, that these are the assets, the ecological assets we have. Because studies have shown that the monetary value of wetland services far exceeds those provided by the terrestrial ecosystem. As we know, there's a time of technology now. We use social media to educate people, and we make videos of these. If you see my page, and you see there are a lot of videos there where we educate people. Nowadays, there is a growing trend of utilizing constructive wetlands for treatment of wastewaters and industrial influence in some places. Due to the encroachment and land use changes, the area of lake and water wetlands have directly reduced during the last few decades. As I said, as you earlier said, from last last 4 decades now, or 5 decades, from 1970 onwards, we have seen that a lot of these wetlands have a lot of encroachment has been done, land use has been changed. There is a lot of development as far as roads, as far as railway tracks, as far as over bridges. They are directly or indirectly affecting these wetlands, because due to therefore the future of lakes and wetlands seems to be at a stake, which I cannot deny as an environmentalist. They are very vulnerable of people to disasters. Despite the regulation and presence of wetland management authorities, wetlands continue degrade in place like Kashmir region. Keeping in view their ecosystem service, wetlands need to be conserved for future generation. If we don't preserve them, there will be nothing left for the future generation. We have to educate people that it is now or never. As I said earlier, that if we don't preserve them now, later it will be too late. Despite the regulation and presence of wetland management authority, wetlands continue to degrade in Kashmir region. Now, keeping in view their ecosystem services, wetland need to be conserved for future generation as well. Because if we don't conserve now, there will be nothing left. As of now, I must tell you, keeping my hand on my heart, there are not much success stories as far as these even though we are losing these wetlands very fast. So I cannot but simultaneously the hope is there. We are trying our level best. We should not be hopeless. We should hope, because these the areas that require aggressive management approaches are restricted to expansion of floating gardens and limiting the growth of the aquatic vegetation. Earlier there was, as I said, during last 30 years when there was a law and order problem in Kashmir, there were some places that were encroached, and there is sometimes the vote politics as well, because a person belonging to a particular area, then in order to lure his voters, they do the politics into that. We should not deny as that well, because it is these hotspots that are earth filled and used for construction of houses. The siltation of wetlands, Srinagar is another important, as I said, another important concern that should be looked into the policymakers, because until and unless you don't work on the catchment of a wetland, then you cannot stop the siltation. Because we have seen personally in one of the wetland, we have driven our car 4 kilometers inside the wetland. Can you guys imagine 4 kilometers inside the wetland? And had a good car that time, a 4x4 car, we could have crossed the wetland. So that is the story, a sad part of it. But again, is that there is a hope as well in some of the wetlands where we have been working. We have seen that government has demarcated the place. That is one important factor. And then if there is any construction or encroachment done, they are trying their level best. I will not say that they are not doing it. They are doing it maybe slowly, but they are doing it. We are the foot soldiers for these wetlands. I have taken a pledge along with my team that we will make sure that these wetlands will remain there, and so that we can pass it to our future generation as well.
Thank you, Dr. Touseef. I think definitely hope is a great thing to have, and I'm sure that with the achievements and success and all those efforts that you are making, and to making sure that the restoration of the wetlands in Kashmir, and I'm sure that it will be definitely in times to come, we will definitely hear those success stories. I once again thanks Dr. Touseef for highlighting the importance of wetlands, especially in Kashmir region, which is an eco-fragile region, like you told. And you talked about the current threat on wetlands due to rapid urbanization and encroachments, which are the major factors, one cannot deny. And this largely, kind of de-shapes a wetland. It is also heart noting that people so accomplished like you, is also holding important portfolios in some of the eco clubs, and I'm sure that through your, intrusion into this portfolio, holding in important positions, it will be a game-changing thing for the restoration of wetlands in Kashmir. You also talked about the wetlands, which are quite breathing their last oxygen unit, and it's so heart-wrenching to hear that. One can imagine, if you go there and see the outlook of that wetland, it is even more heart-wrenching. The common threat you discussed is, of course, the untreated sewage is one of them. And, the experts are not working actively in reshaping the policy on restoration, but also the continuous, practicality that is missing somewhere down the line that is holding the betterment of the wetlands. But I'm sure, like I said, that through your, intrusion, your work that you are doing, the wonderful work that is ongoing, will definitely help in restoring these wetlands in Kashmir. You also highlighted the awareness and the education, the importance of education in the local community, who are the primary stakeholder, I would say, of any wetland. And some recent news that we discussed in detail, and that's quite helped us to connect, in a better manner, that how the significance of wetlands have lost over the period of years. Dr. Touseef, your efforts is definitely going to be a game changer, like I said. And and I must say that your energy is a true reflection of your passion to restore the wetlands again. We all wish you a very good luck.